Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So, just a few minutes of your time today to talk about a quartet of climb products that I think you should know about. I've obtained all four of these products, well, three of the four anyway, in the last month or so. I've had a chance to go out, spend some time with them, and I'm really, really, really impressed. Those of you who follow me on the Tour of Idaho know that one of the concerns that I have is that for trail riding, riding your motorcycle in the woods on single track trails, I think most motocross equipment is completely inappropriate. It doesn't work for that. It's too hot. It's made to protect you in ways that you don't need to be protected in the woods. Uh, and I think there are better alternatives. And I've been exploring those for years. When I first started riding dirt bikes about 20 years ago, I rode in hiking boots. And the only reason that I abandoned them is because the toe box in hiking boots is usually pretty good size, and it's really difficult to get it under your shifter. There's some other problems with those too. They lack the tactile feel for your pegs and some things like that that you need. But one year when I rode the Tour of Idaho, I didn't even wear motocross pants. I wore a set of cotton pants all the way through the Tour of Idaho one year. They were a set of climbing, backpacking pants that had some features that I liked, and I think they worked just fine. Some guys have shown up to ride the Tour of Idaho in logging boots and hiking boots, and again, I think that's just fine. I do not think that motocross apparel, especially boots, are the end all and be all of motorcycle wear. I think that there are some alternatives. And fortunately, my friends at KLIM agree with me. Now, I got to tattle on myself a little bit because those of you who know me know that I do some outside work for KLIM. I do a little consulting with those guys, and we've worked a lot on helmets over the years, especially ventilation and their top end helmets, and a little bit on the acoustics. We've worked a little bit on protection and some things like that. Those guys are all friends of mine. I know them very well. The products that I'm going to be talking about today, they either gave me for review or they gave me at a very reduced price. So I want to disclose all that right up front. I've known those guys for a long time. And I'm always calling those guys up and saying, "Hey, I've got a great idea for a product. We got to do this." And in the beginning, those conversations were like, "Well, what's your idea?" Lately, the past few years, and this happened just a couple of months ago, I called my buddy John up and I said, "Hey, John, look, I got something I want you to take a look at. Here's a product made by a competitor. I think it's a pretty killer product. I think we ought to take a look at making this with better fabrics and fine tuning it so it's made especially for riders rather than just being casual wear." And he said, "Have you seen our spring offerings yet?" And sure enough, that product and another one that I was getting ready to mention to him, KLIM already had an interpretation of that. So these guys, they ride a lot, and they're just like us. They are always trying to make things better, and there's nothing that's sacred with those guys. So they have the same concerns as I do, and I think you do, which is that you go to ride in the woods, and the last thing that you want to do is have to spend a half an hour after you get your bike off the trailer or off the rail or whatever you're carrying it on, changing into a bunch of clothes and stuff. It would be better if, the clothes that you wore, you could just sort of wear around a little bit more in general circumstances. And I think for trail riding, that's entirely possible. So the past few years, I started experimenting with riding in Carhartt pants and riding in Dickies pants, the double knee stuff. Dickies actually makes a pant now that you can actually slide D3O in knee pockets and stuff like that. They're pretty slick. They're soft. I really like them a lot. It's just the colors are too dark. So one of the things that KLIM has had for quite a few years, this is a pant. This is the Outrider pant, and this set is about 5 years old. I've had them for a long time. They come with D3O in the hip and D3O in the knee in these pockets. It's a double knee. It's sort of their interpretation of a Carhartt style pant or a Dickies style pant. They're really nice. I love these things. They make it, this particular one's in a light beige. And when I've been out in the desert the past few weeks working on the Tour of Idaho D2 mystery routes, this is what I wore every day. These are incredibly comfortable, all day comfort. Now, for really long trips, for street biking, I think they're fine. But for really long dirt bike trips, there's not a lot of ventilation in these things. So even though I think they wear pretty well, they're cotton, and so they're kind of cool all by themselves. They're actually, it's sort of like a really heavy Cordura cotton kind of a fabric. So, but it does breathe a lot, and you're fairly comfortable in them. You're not going to break out into a sweat. But they're not really waterproof at all, and that's the only concern I would have. They're not waterproof. They're not really water repellent, but we'll circle back to that in just a second. But this is my go-to trail riding pant anymore, simply because I can get up in the morning, I can put these on, I can go to the grocery store, I can go to the coffee shop, I can go about doing my daily chores, and then I can jump on my motorcycle and ride in the same garment. These are really good for that. Now, KLIM generously updated these for me this year. They have a slightly reimagined model of this, and I got it in a slightly darker color. But this is the new pant, and the Outrider pant. It's part of their 626 series. There's some subtle differences between this and the one I just showed you. The armor, the D3O, is a little bit different. There are a few little stylistic cues that are a little bit different, but essentially it's the same pant. And that other set I've had for 5 years, and I ride motorcycles in them. I go out and I hammer nails in them. I saw trees in them. They're really, really good pants. This is the CE certified model, and I haven't exactly figured out what the difference between that and the regular model is yet. I think it's just the armor in it. The D3O is a little bit beefier armor. That looks like what it is to me. Well, again, I think those are fine for daily trail riding, when you're out and the weather's pretty good. And I like them way better than every motocross pant I have. I like them better than the KLIM pants that I have. I ride in either Mojaves if it's super hot, or I ride in the Dakars. They're both fine pants, but these are way more comfy. And plus, you don't have to change them. You can get in the truck, drive to where you're going to ride, get out, ride, get back in the truck, come back home. You're wearing the same pant. You don't have to take them off. You can go to the store in them. I do not like walking into the grocery store looking like Robbie the Robot, because I'm wearing weird-looking shoes and weird-looking pants. And, the jersey's fine. Most motocross jerseys are not. I mean, you can get some that make you look pretty sensational, but, most of the ones that people use for trail riding, especially KLIM's collection, they're pretty toned down. So you don't look like, you're trying to impress people with what you're wearing. But KLIM also makes this pant. This is the Switchback, and it's a step up from the Outrider. It's CE approved armor and stuff. So again, just like this pant, this is a CE approved version of the pant too. And again, I'm pretty sure the only difference between this and the regular version is that the CE approved has got beefier armor in it. It's CE approved armor, and the other one's probably just got thinner D3O stuffed in it. This is a CE approved garment right here. And the nice thing about this is that this pant has something that the other one doesn't. It's got a slightly different fabric in it, and it's also got ventilation. So the inside is made out of a material that KLIM claims is a very cool material, and I have no reason to doubt that claim. It's a mesh type material, but it's got vents. You can zip open these vents. It's got lots of pockets on it. Now, these are not waterproof per se, but neither are Dakars or Mojaves or any of that stuff either. But what KLIM does is they treat these things with something that they sell, and let me bring it up here. It's this stuff right here. ReviveX water repellent spray. They call it the WRS treatment. That's water repellent spray treatment. Now, here's what I think is the genius in this. Many, many, many years ago, when I was climbing a lot, climbing was my life for 2 decades. And when I was climbing a lot every single day, one thing that concerned me was that all of the state-of-the-art climbing wear was really made for mountaineers. It wasn't made for rock climbers and big wall climbers like me. Some of it's made for alpinists, and that was fine. But the stuff that was made even for alpinists was not really made for people that did hard rock climbs in bad weather. So when you go to the Canadian Rockies, this stuff, like your fluffy down jacket and stuff like that, you're going to shred in a 400-foot jam crack on a granite wall somewhere. You got to be careful with that stuff. So my friends and I were always on the lookout for stuff that would protect you in the weather, but also was pretty abrasion resistant. You wouldn't just shred from the everyday movement and climbing. And cotton turned out to be something that was pretty good. Cotton duck, white painter's pants were the rage back in those days. So what we did to help ourselves out a little bit was we said, look, cotton has two or three really good things going for it. First of all, it's inexpensive. It's got a high degree of abrasion resistance in the tighter, thicker weaves. It's cool in hot weather, and it can be kind of warm in cold weather as long as you can keep it dry. So what we did was we went out and we got sprays that had been developed especially to waterproof materials that were not already waterproof. And we just spray the heck out of our cotton gear that way. And we made it waterproofs ourselves. And that's kind of what KLIM has done with this ReviveX water repellent spray. It's a great idea. You could spray it on not every fabric, but on a wide variety of fabrics. It doesn't make it absolutely waterproof, but it will make it highly water repellent. And for most cases, that'll do you just fine. Now, those of you, again, who follow me on the Tour of Idaho page know that I think that Gore-Tex is a mistake for Tour of Idaho kind of riding. Again, Gore-Tex works. It's a pretty high-tech fabric, but it works because of the size of water vapor particles versus water droplets. So it doesn't allow water vapor to soak in, but it doesn't allow water droplets to pass the membrane, but it does allow water vapor to pass through the membrane. There's some other things in there too. That's an oversimplified version, but that's kind of what Gore-Tex does. It doesn't work though if it gets dirty or if there's something actually pushing on it. So when you're riding through the woods and wet leaves are slapping your shoulders and stuff, that Gore-Tex will leak like a sieve. You'll get soaked after a while. So I'm not so sure that you're actually taking a big step backward by getting something like this pant, the Switchback pant. I think a water repellent treatment is the way to go. And then rain gear. Get yourself a lightweight set of rain gear if there's a possibility that it's really going to rain. Because that lightweight rain gear is absolutely waterproof. All you got to do is make sure you don't put holes in it. So right now, if I were going to do a tour of Idaho, this might be a pant that I would really consider for something like that, simply because you wouldn't need to take along another set of pants for the end of your day. You know, when you want to walk into a restaurant or something, you could wash them in the sink at night and you'd be good to go the next day. You do have to be a little careful about washing the things, but as long as you just are hand washing them in a sink or something like that, they'll be they'll be fine. So those are the two garments that I want to talk about, both those sets of pants. I've worn one of them extensively. The other I haven't worn very much, but I plan on wearing them, and I'll give you a little review of how they work in all conditions after I've had a chance to wear it out. But it's based on an idea that's tried and proven as far as I'm concerned, because I spent 15 years doing pretty hard climbing routes in remote locations all over North America, and I principally used cotton and canvas duck that I waterproofed, and that was kind of my go-to. I would always carry along rainproof shells, but unless I was doing alpine climbs or mountaineering, I never used Gore-Tex. I used waterproof cotton, and then I used a rain shell to go over all that stuff if I really needed it. That's kind of the thinking that KLIM's got going here. So I've used that system before, and I have not found it wanting. It has been absolutely reliable for me. So I'm going to recommend that you give it a shot too. Also, these things aren't very expensive. Full retail. The Outrider is less expensive than the Switchback. The Switchback's a little bit higher tech fabric. It's a little bit more expensive. But the Outrider pant, you know, you can get most places for around $200. That's kind of the street price on them. It's well worth the investment. You'll like them a lot. They're just as comfy as they can be. Now, a couple of other things I want to talk about. I've already talked about the Adventure GTX boot a little bit. Let me get one up here. So, KLIM provided these to me for a review. As you can see, they've been ridden in a lot now. I really love these things, and unless KLIM comes and makes me give them back, you'll remove them from my feet when I'm dead. This is the boot that I will ride in from now on. This is their first shot at this, so there are some things that could be improved about it, but they're minor. I think they need them in lighter colors. Those of you that know me know that I like lighter colors because they repel heat a little bit better. But I've worn this boot in the desert when it was over 100 degrees in triple digits, and it was no hotter than anything else I've ever worn. It's been absolutely soaked. I mean, I've spent extensive amount of time in creek beds in this thing. My feet stay dried. They're all day comfy. Some people have expressed concerns about the size of the toe box in these things. It is big. It takes a little getting used to, but I didn't even have to adjust my shift lever. I just had to position my foot slightly different, and it worked fine. If you had to adjust your shift lever, it would be maybe one increment, if that. It's a lower profile than it actually looks. I use the extra footbed that they give you with it to make up for the fact that they don't come in half sizes, to take up a little bit of volume in it, and it is comfy, comfy, comfy. I'll probably put a set of custom footbeds in these things because I typically put custom footbeds in about everything that I wear because I like the comfort. The BOA system has not given me the least bit of trouble. I thought that this would be something that might give me some trouble pretty quick. It has not. I still think that 2 buckles would be better than a single buckle in the BOA system, but let's just see. There's only one thing I found about this boot, and I've probably logged 1,000 miles in this boot now. And the only thing that I have found about it that the plastic motocross boots are better at is if you fall off your bike and you're laying with your foot pinned underneath the motorcycle, with a plastic motocross boot, there's that plastic's really hard. So it's kind of easy to slide it out from underneath the bike. With this boot, the material's a lot softer, and it's actually kind of tacky. It's sticky in a lot of places. So if you get your leg pinned underneath the bike, I got my leg pinned one day when I was out riding by myself, and I actually had to reach down and pop the BOA so I could slide the boot off because I tried for 5 minutes to drag my foot out from underneath the bike, and I couldn't get it. Now, that sounds funny, but that's not an inconsequential thing. That's something that you should think about, that, the outside of the boot's a little tacky, and if you get it stuck someplace, it's a lot harder to pull it out than it is a really hard plastic shell on most motocross boots. So, Adventure GTX boot, worth every penny. I love them. Again, I've ridden in them a lot in all conditions, and I'm not riding in any more boots. My SG12s are parked. My Crossfire 2s are parked. They are gonna. I'll find somebody that wants them. But these boots right here, this is the shiz nizzle. That's the boot you want for trail riding. But KLIM, we need a lighter color, beige or a white, please. And then finally, this boot right here, the KLIM Blak Jak. I ride street bikes a lot too. In fact, my first love motorcycling were street bikes. The only successes I really ever had in racing were in road racing. I raced at Willow Springs for 4 or 5 years, and I had some success down there. I love street bikes. I've got a Super Duke, a 1290 Super Duke R, and a Ducati Monster sitting out the shop, and I try to ride them as much as I can. Once again, when it comes to motorcycle streetwear, a lot of manufacturers think that you want to look like you just stepped out of the Isle of Man TT. I do not want to look that way. I want to be able to get off my motorcycle and walk into a store and look just like everybody else. I don't want everybody to think that I just jumped out of the Isle of Man TT to go shopping for bananas and apples at Fred Meyer. This is a step in the right direction. This Blak Jak boot, which isn't really very expensive, it's $180, I think, MSRP. It's a fantastic little boot. It looks cool. It's kind of fashionable. It's very well constructed. It's got all the stuff you'd look for in a boot that you'd spend about that much money for that's a casual boot. It's got a really nice little shifter pad for a left side shifter anyway. If you're a right side shifter, you're a little bit out of luck. It's got padding in all the right places. This is a really nice boot. These things are great. They're comfortable. And once again, this is something that you might wear around even if you weren't going to ride your motorcycle. They're really comfortable boots. They are as protective as every other low boot that I have. A set of racing boots or a set of dedicated road riding boots are, of course, going to be more protective. But again, I think in most cases, people go too far with that stuff. I think that, and I'm really big on protecting my feet too. I'm a guy that really worries a lot about foot injuries. I don't have any worries in these. I think these are just fine for riding around on the street, and they look nice. They're pretty comfortable. You don't get hot. They make them in a black color, but I like the beige color better because most of the time when you ride a street bike, you're riding around in the summer. That means the sun's shining on you. You want to be cooled down. So there you have it. 4 products from KLIM that I think will keep you covered. I like all of these things. You know, I typically don't rate things, even when I write up the reviews. I do a little snarky thing about, you know, the good, the bad, and the gnarly on them. I would give all of these, you know, if I just don't rate things on a scale of 1 to 5. All I'm going to tell you is I would buy all of these at full price with my own money. And I think they're very well made. Sean Smith, Martin, would the Switchback pants still go over a dirt bike boot? That's a good question. The new one absolutely would. The old one looks to me, the leg looks to be a little bit more tailored, but the new ones that I just got, I think that's one of the styling cues. It's a little bit different. I think the bottom of the pant has a greater diameter to it, and I think it would. But not all boots are the same, right? It would definitely go over my SG12s. It would definitely go over the CD Crossfires because they're a little bit lower. But some boots go way high, and they fasten up over the calf, and then it's going to depend on how big your calf is. They're not adjustable. So, you know, if they don't, there's not a lot you can do. But you'd have to have an awfully big calf in order, I think, to not be able to stretch that around. Let me pull it up here and show you. Oh, wait. You said the Switchback. Okay. The Switchback, look at this. I was thinking Outrider for a second. The Switchback opens up, so you can get it over anything you want. The Outrider does not. Let me make sure I got those right. You did say Switchback. That's right. So this is the Switchback. You can actually open it up at the bottom, so it'll fit over anything. The Outrider, the new one would. The old one I don't think would. All right. So we're all straight. All right. Anything else here? All right. I'm not seeing anything in terms of questions or anything. So anyway, I really like all those products. I think they're good for you Tour Vito guys. Telling you what, man, I'd give this some consideration. Heck, I'd even give this some consideration. Just make sure you order them in the light beige, because I've been riding around out in the desert in exactly that pant. In fact, in exactly the pair that I showed you the first time around. Again, these are 5 years old. There's no wear on them anywhere. They're nice and soft now because I've washed them a whole bunch. And these things are comfy. And on those hot days, you don't sweat in these cotton pants. So your crotch isn't all messy and rotten like it gets in a lot of other pants that, you know, have thicker fabrics and stuff in them. But there is no direct method of ventilation. You're just counting on the cotton. But try them out. Order up a pair and see what you think. The guys at KLIM will take care of you. All right, that's it for the day. I'll see most of you next Monday night on PBR Monday. Be seeing you.